Let's talk about the Google Pixel 10 Pro Fold. A couple of months back, we got a post on Android headlines in collaboration with OnLeaks that read exclusive leak Google Pixel 10 Pro Fold renders. And this set of renders revealed that the 10 Pro Fold was going to look very, very similar to the 9 Pro Fold. But they updated this article shortly after it was posted to include the dimensions of the 10 Pro Fold, and that is what we're going to focus on in this video because I think that one of these dimensions could use some additional context, some additional digging, because I actually think we can make sense of them where there's a little bit of confusion here perhaps. These are the numbers they give: 155.2 by 150.4 by 5.3 millimeters. If we look at the dimensions of the Pixel 9 Pro Fold as they were given by Google, what we have is this: 155.2, which I believe is exactly the same. It is 150.2, which is 0.2 of a millimeter off, and then 5.1 millimeters, which is odd because that implies that the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is actually getting a little bit thicker. They try to hedge their bets here, though. They said that's slightly different than the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, and some of you might notice it's actually thicker. However, it's important to note that OnLeaks dimensions are off by a very small amount, around 0.1 to 0.3 millimeters, so we're banking on it being the exact same dimensions this year. So they're saying sometimes these renders are a little bit off, the measurements are a little bit off, and that might be what it is. But I think that there's actually even a better explanation for this. In order to explain it, we have to look at another leak from OnLeaks, this time of the Galaxy Z Fold 7. I don't know why I emphasized the word fold there whenever I said that, but we have the same sort of treatment here, and he said that the Fold 7 was going to be 4.5 millimeters thick. If we jump over to Twitter, we see this conversation between OnLeaks and another very reputable Samsung tech leaker, Ice Universe. And what he says is, what Ice Universe says to OnLeaks: the calculation method of Samsung's official data does not include the thickness of the protruding bezel, so the actual thickness is 0.5 millimeters higher than Samsung's data. And OnLeaks sort of responds to this by showing the measurements he was making of this CAD render. Measured distance is 4.5 millimeters. And you can see he's including the bezel. If he excludes the bezel, 3.9 millimeters, which is the measurement that Ice Universe had given. So this sort of gave me, give all of us, a window into how these measurements were being done. Samsung is not including that bezel in the body measurement of their devices. And so what I did is, not only did I measure Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 6 to confirm that its actual measurements, when you include the bezel, are not the same as the actual measurements they give, confirming they're not including that bezel, I did the exact same thing for the Pixel 9 Pro Fold and for the Oppo Find N5, and my conclusion here is that no OEM is including that protruding bezel. They are all measuring the body. So if we go back to this post from Android Headlines, where they say it's 5.3 millimeters, and this post was before we got this confirmation, I think that it is probable that OnLeaks is once again measuring the full body of this device and not excluding that bezel. So what can we do here? Well, we can measure my own Pixel 9 Pro Fold and get a measurement of how thick it is, including the bezel. Now, I do want to quickly clarify one thing. My measurements are probably ever so slightly larger than the reality. So if I said it was 6.4 millimeters, maybe it was like 6.3. The reason for this is that my set of calipers are like ridiculously sharp for whatever reason. Like they're super duper sharp on the end and on the edges as well. So I'm not like squeezing this thing into my $1,800 phones. I've got it snug, but I think you can forgive me for not going super duper tight. So there's a little bit of a margin of error there to keep in mind. So if we take a close look at my Pixel 9 Pro Fold being measured, again, you can see I'm getting about as close as I can. And I will say that the Pixel 9 Pro Fold's bezel is much like kind of broader and flatter. So it's possible that I'm getting closer to ground truth on this one than I was with the others, which have more narrow and like higher protruding bezels. I'll also point out that the fact that this thing is listed at 5.1, but actually measured it at 5.3, the smallest gap of any of them, I think that explains why so many Pixel Fold users have complained that it seems like the screen is touching itself. You'll open it up and maybe you'll hear like a peeling sound, and then maybe you'll see little smudges on the screen that appear to be that the screen is touching itself. I think that's why. I think because the bezel is just not very tall, and that allows that type of thing to happen. But nonetheless, we have a 0.2 millimeter difference here. And not only do we have a 0.2 millimeter difference here, this is where we kind of get our conclusion. And unfortunately, it's kind of a disappointing and boring conclusion. What did OnLeaks say he measured? 5.3 millimeters. That's what I just measured as well. So my guess would be the bezel's height is staying probably the same, and what we're going to end up with is a Pixel 10 Pro Fold that in all axis, all dimensions, is exactly the same as the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Now, the good news here is that if the camera bump doesn't change, which it doesn't look like it is, and the buttons stay in the same place, you may literally be able to use some of your back cases with the new phone. You might literally be able to take your thin-born aramid fiber case off and put it on your Pixel 10 Pro Fold and roll on. Now the front, this side where the hinge is getting smaller, so that's not going to necessarily be true. But the back cases may literally fit the new device just fine. So guys, that's what I personally will be expecting from the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, a device that is basically exactly the same in physical dimensions as the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, with the only real difference being that cover display might be just ever so slightly wider because that hinge area has gotten smaller. And this is based on those leaked dimensions with this new understanding of how these OEMs are going about measuring their devices where they exclude the bezel. Hopefully you guys found that at least a little bit entertaining. It is a slow news day right now because we're coming off of Memorial Day weekend, and it is Memorial Day as I am recording and posting this video, which I hope that you guys had a great Memorial Day weekend and hopefully having a great Memorial Day today as well. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Subscribe for more content like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.